You're listening to the Actors Resource Podcast with Aaliyah Lay, a podcast for actors and improvisers with interviews from entertainment industry experts.
Our guest today is Yvonne Senat Jones. Born in Dallas, Texas, she is of Bolivian-Haitian descent and is fluent in Spanish. She earned her Master's of Fine Arts in Acting at the University of South Carolina and immediately began teaching theater arts and loved it. Yvonne began working with City Hearts LA, a nonprofit organization which brings the arts to schools that wouldn't normally be able to fund an arts program. Her first big break came when Emmy Award-winning casting director Robbie Reed cast her in the role of Robin Crawford in the BET movie The Bobby Brown Story. The cast won the NAACP Image Award for Best TV Movie. A year later, she booked the recurring role of Tally in Tyler Perry's hit drama The Oval. Director Perry then expanded her role to a series regular lead in his spin-off, Ruthless. Yvonne and her husband, Charles Jones, own the production company MFB Entertainment. Yvonne, thank you so much for being here on the Actors Resource Podcast.
Thank you so much for having me. That is a mouthful. You did splendidly.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I just want to congratulate you so much on your trajectory and your success and for being just a awesome person.
Oh, thank you, Leah. Appreciate that.
And it sounds like you didn't actually get started acting until college.
Right.
Okay, so what got you into that? What began your passion for acting?
Well, I went back to school after taking a year off to try to do modeling. I was not a fan of the biz. I just didn't really have the right kind of guidance, I would say. And I give lots of props to models. It's hard work. So I just went back to school. I had promised my mom I'd go back to school. And I took a class in everything I kind of liked to see what I wanted to declare my major as. And one of the classes was acting. And I fell in love with it, honestly. I was very nervous to declare it my major. It was a little risky, but I really felt peace about it. And so I knew I would spend money on classes anyway. I might as well have a degree at the end of it. So I declared my major, and I was blessed enough to get a full ride scholarship to University of South Carolina, got my master's in it. So I feel like I was late to the game compared to, some people really get started earlier. But I'm happy because I think it's a industry you should be very strong in who you are when you're in the industry, because there's a lot of shiny objects that can potentially get you, distracted, or maybe, I think it's just something you need to have a mature mind to go into, or at least a really great mentor if you are, a young actor.
How did you make that decision? Because there is a lot of choices, and it sounds like it's something you started just taking a bunch of different interests. How did you come to the decision to really make that choice and say, I'm going to do acting as my major? And then did you realize what that meant when you chose that?
Yeah, that's a good question. Did I realize what I had coming?
And we want to hear more about that too.
Yeah, what I signed up for.
Yes.
I can say I did not realize what I signed up for until I got into it.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't have it any other way. And I think the decision just came because I did an improv class. And I remember you were telling me that this is a podcast for actors and improvisers. I did an improv class, and the scene was a dramatic scene. And I remember being so lost in the scene, not in a bad way, but I was so invested, that's a better word, invested in the scene, that when the lights went down and came back up, it was almost an outer body experience, to be honest with you. It felt so real, as if I was living out a dream I had been having or something, and so hard to explain, but actors understand what I mean. And that experience was, for me, a natural high. I never experienced anything similar to it before, being able to completely be in someone else's shoes. And so I actually had been studying Soc. I was a Soc major just for my freshman year. But I really felt like I always had a curiosity for why people are the way they are. I don't think it's all psychological, and I don't think it's all social. I think it can be a mix of it. And so acting is actually the walking out study of that to figure out what makes your character tick. But the best part about acting is it doesn't just provide reasons for why people are the way they are, but because it acts out that person in front of you, then sometimes you can find a place of empathy and maybe, a softness in your heart for somebody that you didn't have that for prior to seeing them on screen, So
Yeah.
that was a part of it that I really loved of acting, and I couldn't go back. After I went there, I couldn't go back. I had to keep moving in this.
That is huge. Improv is so amazing for acting, and also just that moment when you felt so, I guess, alive or out of body, right? That is huge. And also the part where you said that it helps you develop empathy and compassion for people or characters that you wouldn't normally, because you can understand from a different point of view and perspective. Yeah, that's great. So after you graduated, you went and you started teaching acting. What got you into teaching? And from South Carolina, did you move directly to LA?
Yeah, so my agent referred me to a company. I kind of fell into teaching and didn't realize I would love it so much. You have to teach to get your master's. So I was actually teaching Theater 101 to freshmen at University of South Carolina, which is funny because some people were older than me in my class, but it was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed teaching students. But then I started working with a for-profit organization, Shakespeare Company, that would do Shakespeare classes for homeschooled students who would all meet at one place for different classes. And that was awesome. And then through them, I actually found out about City Hearts LA that worked in lower income communities that couldn't afford the arts programs, and they were nonprofit. And I fell in love with that because my husband and I are really passionate about bringing financial literacy into communities that don't normally receive financial literacy, or just, you know, funding and things like that. So the fact that I could give back of my talent to the kids in these communities, I stayed doing that up until I just schedule-wise couldn't this last semester. So it's so fulfilling and so rewarding to see these kids that a lot of times sports are where all the money goes in the schools, because it's a great opportunity for them. But not everybody falls into sports, or even the ones who do need a different kind of outlet. So acting really allowed a lot of kids to shine who are sometimes really shy, or opposite. They just talk a lot in class. So now they have an outlet where it's okay in a, you know, we put it towards something good.
Yeah. I love that you're such givers. And then about that financial literacy, I think that's true across the board. Like, it seems like I don't think schools teach that at all. Like, I think it's up to the families. And if you come from a family that doesn't have or know financial literacy, where are you going to learn it, you know?
Yes, I agree with you. It becomes a cycle, unfortunately, until something comes into your environment to change that sometimes.
Yeah, I love that. And I'm still working on it myself.
Oh, so tell us about it. We're too. Lifelong journey.
Yeah. So at this point, right, so you started working and then you got your first big break. Yeah. How did that come about? And also, not only how did that come about, but afterwards, in terms of if you'd like to share along your journey, how long you've been acting since you've graduated, and what some of the challenges, struggles, as well as the wins and successes were. So that was a lot of questions. Sorry.
Okay, yeah. So I graduated in 2013, and I went immediately. In fact, every summer I was going back to work at T-Mobile. I had been with T-Mobile since I was 18. Yeah, and they had been wonderful for me, and they took me back every summer. Such a gift. And then they took me back when I was done with school, and I got married, and I quit eventually. It was 15 years after I had started. I finally was able to quit because my husband and I have a production company, and over the 2 years of us being married, we kind of got it on its feet to where I could leave. And it was a risk, you know, to leave the benefits and everything. But I was blessed enough that within a month of leaving, I had booked the Bobby Brown project. I know. And I was in Atlanta filming, which was crazy because I actually had auditioned for that the year prior with my LA agent. And then I signed with
What?
Yeah, I know. I didn't even get a call back. I signed with an Atlanta agent that November. And then that January, they had no idea I had already gone in. They submitted me. And that was the one that when I sent a self-tape, they were like, okay, call back. And then it was like chemistry read. And then it just like kept accelerating until I actually booked the role. So I really feel like what's for you is for you, you know, because it came back a second time and that never happens.
Wow. Yeah, that's so cool.
Yeah, yeah. And then after that, you know, even though I did leave my job, we supplemented our income by driving Uber. So I was driving Uber for at least 2.5 years after I quit my job. And it was a challenging time, I would say. I ended up booking my recurring role. That was huge for me. I had gotten co-stars in between that time, but I had never booked something that was more than one episode. And that was Mr. Tyler Perry's Oval, which was a really hot show, one of the top dramas at the time. And, you know, I was like, oh my gosh, I'm going to meet Mr. Perry. But yeah. And it went wonderfully. But I will tell you guys, as actors, I went right back to driving Uber when I got back. And it wasn't like a small check. It was a good sized check. But I mean, we've been spending money either investing in our own equipment or just getting by. Like all of our, I was just doing our taxes a while ago and I was like, man, the last few years, it's just been all bills, right? And paying things back. So, you know, that was kind of frustrating because you feel like, okay, finally you see this big check in the mail and then it's just gone because you're in LA. You're like, dang it. So that can be really frustrating as an actor. But I just went back to driving because I said, you know what, I will drive until the next gig because I'm not stopping. And my husband was really encouraging in that season because it wasn't just like Yvonne ready to go at all times. There was Yvonne that was like, screw it, I'm done. I'm going back to school, even though I have a master's. Like, I'm done. So, you know, you have to have a really strong squad around you. Keep you pushing.
Yeah, because sometimes it can be discouraging because it's not consistent and it is a different way of being right in the world versus a 9 to 5 can be discouraging. And sometimes you don't see the results of all the hard work you put in, or the results is just brief and it's not consistent yet. And that can be discouraging for sure. And I love that, you know, you're sharing that you went through that discouragement and that you just went directly back to Uber.
Yeah,
right after
I was like, I hope no one recognizes me. Like, what do you do? Oh, I'm on Tyler Perry's show, but you're driving me to the airport right now.
So I guess you kind of got to put that ego a little bit to the side.
You do, man, you do.
But it's great. I think the encouraging part and the inspirational part is that you keep going and you have people around you that are supportive, and that it's also good to hear and know that you're a series regular and that you went through stuff too. So just don't give up, right?
Yeah, that's key. It's just the persistence. It's the, you know, the last man standing almost, right? Because if you think about it, it's kind of logical in its own way. There are obviously like gifts and blessings along the way, and people like get accelerated just out of the blue in relationships, but it's really just building relationships over time. So if you're just consistent, then, for example, Kim Coleman, who called me in, I had been getting called into her office for at least 3 years before I booked this. And then that last year that I booked the Oval, she was calling me in pretty consistently. And so that took time, right? It didn't just happen the first year. There was a lot of, you know, thank you cards and thank you for this last one. And then maybe a postcard. Look, I just booked, you know, a one-liner on SWAT. So, but over time, if you just maintain those relationships and keep doing a great job, which is why, you know, we met in school. I think it's very important to, you know, focus on your craft. And I started Wendy Davis's class where, you know, Aaliyah and I met right after I finished my series regular, because I didn't want to sit on my haunches to say like, oh, I know everything there is to know now, and then kind of outdate myself. So I think it's very important to make sure you're always studying your craft so that you are competitive, because it is the last man standing, but it's the last, you know, man standing who's really put the time into their craft and keeps winning the room over and over and over again. You start making relationships with people, and they're going to call you in because it's less of a risk to have somebody who's consistent, that they know always delivers, come into their office than, you know, somebody new. So I do think there's a bit of logic to it all, you know, and a bit of order to it all. But at the end of the day, you know, they have different reasons. There's 10 million reasons why people book and why they don't. So that's the hard part.
Yeah. And when you were going in for Kim Coleman, Was the Oval the first thing she actually booked you on? Like, you've been going in for a few years, which is, I know sometimes actors don't realize this, but that is huge to be consistently called in by a casting director, even if you don't book anything. That is huge, right?
Yes, it's the first thing I booked for her. I hadn't booked anything to that with her.
Woo!
Yes, yes. Like, yay, thank you. Yeah, so it was pretty incredible to find out about it. And then Mr. Perry actually gave me a little bit of a heads up at the last day of filming about Ruthless and the spinoff he had created. He didn't say those words, but I'm a big thank you card person. My mom made me do that when I was a kid. So, and it's convenient because people are flying, you know, you don't want to try to stop them if they're in the middle of a production. So it's just a nice, easy way to say thank you with your business card or your name. And so I made one for Mr. Perry, and it was my last day, and they were just like normal, going to the next scene. They said, hey, Yvonne's wrapped, you know, and then on to the next scene. So I just said, thank you, Mr. Perry. I wanted to give you this. It's my last day. And then he shook my hand. He was like, you know, he said, you did great work, but this isn't going to be your last time on my set. We're going to bring you back. And I was like, oh my gosh, that's what you want to hear from Mr. Perry, because he really means it. He has a memory like a vault.
Really? Oh my gosh.
Yes. And so sure enough, within a few months, you know, right as I got back to work and everything, I got the script for Ruthless, and he had made me a series regular. Yeah.
And you didn't even have to audition for it.
No, I auditioned for the recurring, and it rolled into the series reg. I know.
Yes.
What a gift.
Oh my gosh. I love this because it just shows that there's not just one way, right?
Yeah.
To get to whatever, whatever your goals are, there's not just one way.
No. And that's why you have to be so, you know, just treat every audition as if like, this is it. Even if on paper, it might just be, you know, one scene. How many people's scenes have gotten turned into, you know, recurrings and series regs, right? Or characters.
Yeah. Oh my God, I love that so much. At this point now, for you, now that you are a series regular on Ruthless, which is amazing, second season, wow.
Second season, out Thanksgiving Day, BET Plus. Woo.
Do you have any new goals that you want to accomplish now in your acting career?
You know, I was just mentioning that I can say it now because it just came through on deadline. My goal for this year, and what I really felt like strongly about, was that I was going to book a feature this year. I haven't had a feature film before. I have had, like, Bobby Brown was made for TV movies, so I haven't had a full-length feature before. And I just really felt like strongly that this would be the year, right? Even though it's 2020. It's crazy.
Yeah.
But I am very, very happy to say that I just booked my feature film on Friday, and my husband and my husband and I had to immediately fly to Toronto, Canada. So we are in Toronto right now.
Oh my gosh.
Yes, we're in Toronto right now.
Yeah. Yay, congratulations.
Thank you. Yes. I can tell you the name of the project actually now that it's out. So I'm going to be playing the wife of the king in the new Disney Plus movie Sneakerella.
Ooh.
Yeah, but with sneakers, and it's going to be a musical live action, and John Sally plays my husband, and it's just epic. I'm so excited. And In the Heights choreography is just, man, I'm in awe.
I am so excited for you, but I'm trying not to scream because it's like, I don't want to interrupt your talking, right? So I'm like bouncing up and down.
I know. I screamed. So my husband was like, Yvonne, you're going to hurt your voice. I was like, I don't care. My manager was the one who told me, and I was screaming because when he told me, we were on our way to take photos because of our production company, but I was on the same road, Aaliyah, the same road that I would drive 2 hours for the first 2 years of our marriage, 2 hours to get to Long Beach to work at T-Mobile, right?
Wow.
And I would drive there, 2 hours there, 2 hours back. And I remember even once my agent called me, was like, hey, and I was on my way to work. Hey, we need you to go do an audition. I was like, I'm on my way to work. And I just hated having to call my boss and say, can I please? And thankfully, he was wonderful. It was like, just come a little late. But it was just such a gift to be like, no, this time we're driving to our own project where it's like, no, if I have to book it and leave, I'm leaving.
Yes.
And it's Disney. And it's just such a full circle for me. I'm still on cloud nine right now. So grateful. So, so grateful.
I'm so excited.
We'll have to meet up and scream in person.
Oh my God, that would be so cool. I would be like
With
jumping up and down with our masks. Yeah. And only air hugging, right? So
air hugging, social distancing.
Yes.
Air cheering.
Yes. Oh my gosh, so excited and congratulations. That is so huge.
Thank
You're in Toronto right now, so you haven't filmed yet, or you're in the middle?
No. Toronto is very serious about COVID. We had to show them how we were going to be quarantining for 2 weeks in our apartment.
Mm-hmm.
Like, we can't leave for groceries. It stinks because they don't deliver wine here.
They
I just want to celebrate
sober
some wine, but Walmart and all these grocery stores don't deliver. So I think we figured it out. I think we have to do a restaurant, but everything has to be delivered. We can't go outside for 2 weeks. We have a balcony. That's our fresh air. But, I'll take it. And my husband has to actually stay in this apartment for 7 weeks while I film because I'm allowed on set, but he's not.
Oh my gosh. Wow. Yeah. Oh my God. Okay. So you're there now, literally, and you have to quarantine for 2 weeks before you can even go on set. And you're on set for 5 weeks.
Yes, exactly. And, I'll be back and forth to my apartment to set, but that's how it's run. Mm-hmm.
Another question for you, though.
Sure.
How have you been able to adjust and change along with your success? Has that changed at all for you? Were you always ready? Or have you been learning and adjusting as you keep growing?
Oh, completely. It's a growth thing. It's almost hard to receive something sometimes because you feel like, oh my gosh, this is too big. Right? Like, this is too big. But it's exactly what I was praying for. It's exactly what I was hoping for. Like, so it's that ability to feel like, you know what? You deserve good things. Everybody deserves great things. It's not like I earned it as in deserve it, but we all deserve a good life and great things. And it's just us being okay with receiving great things in our life. So I'm very big on like affirmations. So I write stuff on my wall, that says, this was one of the things I wrote down, and I would say it out loud as if it already happened. Like, I'm in a feature film that is a blockbuster hit and I get to wear pretty clothes, or just something along those lines. Right.
And you write it as if it's already happened. Is that right? Or how do you do that?
I do. I write it in the present tense. Like, I am a multiple Academy Award winner for Best Actress, Yvonne Senat Jones. And I'll write it because that for me allows me to start being okay with the idea of it, because I do feel like all of us have beautiful blessings in store for us, and they're there, and it's almost like they're already done, but we just have to be okay with receiving them. Like, it's like, I'm okay with great things. I feel like there's a potential for us, especially as women, to feel like, no, we don't need that much. We're okay. I'm okay. I can just maybe do this. Right. Even though our hopes and our dreams are higher than that. Yeah. So by saying it out loud, I feel like that consistently changes the narrative for me, so that when something like this comes, I can celebrate it and actually be like, you know what? I'm so grateful for this. And when I audition for it, it can be something that I actually feel like I can achieve, as opposed to, sometimes there's things that we see that are too big and we're like, oh my gosh, Disney Plus or Disney or NBC or whatever. And, we're like, that's a big guy. Probably not. And we try to talk ourselves out. Probably not. Right. As opposed to, no, I actually would love to be in this. And is it going to hurt any less if I don't get it? If I'm over here talking myself out of it? No. So I might as well just pump myself up and be like, yes, you can do this.
Right. Oh my gosh, that's so huge. So do you have any advice in terms of how to step into that? Because that is exactly what I just did. I randomly got a audition for a series regular role for a new show for Disney. And I did the audition and whatnot, but I totally did what you just said. I totally just went, okay, there's no way I can get this. I'm going to do this, but I just know I'm not really even,
Yeah.
So I totally did that to myself. So
it's common. We do it all the time. We do it all the time. And it doesn't mean you're not going to book it, right? Like, there's times that we've told ourselves, like, oh no, like, I don't, well, hope that went well. I don't know. You know what I mean? And then it's like, we love you. So it's not like a make or breaker, of course, but I do agree, like, as much as possible, I do think we should try to encourage ourselves because we got a big world out here and not everybody's encouraging, right? The people in our circle might be, but not everybody's going to be encouraging. So, you know, I think somebody said, and I'm not going to say it right, but they said basically like, you're not the casting director. So stop like cutting yourself out of the project before they get a chance to decide. And so I would say just a practical way of going about it is just maybe finding something, a quote, or something that you can line up with that just reminds you of your value of who you are. Because I can speak from experience, Aaliyah, like being in your class, girl, you slay. You slay in front of the camera. So,
oh, you're so sweet. Thank you.
Oh yeah, I would just maybe even something like, I am more than capable of, you know, handling any role that's given to me, or something along the lines that just makes you feel like, you know what, I can do this. And you just say it to yourself, look at yourself, say it.
I like that.
And then you just go in it. And then you know, you release it afterwards. I like to rip up my sides. I couldn't with this one. I really loved the role. So I really tried to rip up the sides and I was just like, no, I just want it so bad. I'm sorry. You know, these are all things that we're trying to figure out, but nothing's a constant, right? Because we're not constant. We're just, what works for you works for you. But I do believe it's a journey. We're always growing. And just like you're like, you know what, I want to implement this in my life. I think that's the biggest thing, is just being open to like, you know what, I think I just want to do this better. Right. And I'm the same. It's like, you know what, I just want to do this better now, or do more of this, or do less of this. And then just go.
Yeah. I love it. Thank you so much. And you are phenomenal. I don't have to tell you that, but I'm going to tell you that anyways, because you are. You're talented, you're beautiful, and you're so kind and generous. Like, you are such a giver.
Thanks. I appreciate you so much. Same. You are too. Same.
Thank you. Is there any last parting words you'd like to, you know, share with us? Any other promotions? But I mean, the Sneakerella is huge.
Yeah. Obviously very excited. Part 2 of Ruthless is coming out on Thanksgiving Day, and it's on BET Plus. So it's going to be, that one's not Disney, by the way. That one is Tyler Perry at his edgiest. So
adults only.
Adults only, please. I know I'm going from one end of the spectrum all the way to the other. But no, I would just say, you know, I'm so grateful for you, Aaliyah, and for this outlet, because honestly, girl, when I was driving Uber, I was listening to people's interviews of actors and their hard times, and it kept me on the road, literally on the road, because I figured I haven't even gone through that yet. So I might even be at a better place than they were before they booked whatever it was they booked. So I really love this outlet that you have. And I just think we as actors need to continue to feed ourselves with things that'll keep us going. And not always just acting, right? Because our life can't revolve around acting. It should be outside of that. We can find a lot of fulfillment like in teaching and volunteering and things like that. So yeah, I really want to encourage anyone who's listening to this that it is on its way. And, you know, it just takes you staying on that path to meet up with what's on its way, right?
Yeah.
I really believe that.
And stepping into allowing yourself to receive it, right?
Yeah, allowing yourself to receive it, knowing that you are worth it, knowing you're completely worth it. It's not above you, beyond you, anything. It's made for you. It is yours.
I love that. Oh, Yvonne, you are wonderful. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Aaliyah.
And thank you for listening to the Actors Resource Podcast with me, Aaliyah Lay. I would love to hear from you, so email me, AliyahKLay@gmail.com, ALYAKLEI@gmail.com.